The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowercat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the Insiders. 3 of us for now, and our new time. And plus, we were a little bit late starting because Glenn sounded like a duck on speed. You have no idea what happened to his microphone, but it would have almost been more entertaining just to leave him. You sounded like tape. You sound like tape being reloaded. So Glenn Kinley to my side, right there in the middle of this giant honking hairy head. and, Big B, Brien Hanley over there, and Tim Everson will join us. Our new time isn't as convenient for him, but I'm going to make an announcement later in the show that'll make sense why we wanted to be at a steady top of the hour, 1 o'clock from here on out. Boys, how were your holidays? Brian, I haven't even talked to you about. Did Santa give you everything you wanted?
He did, underwear, socks, the usual stuff that I asked for. And, he got everybody together. I hadn't seen all my family basically since last Christmas. We all got together. So that was enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and your Steelers are in the playoffs. That was a little holiday treat.
I wasn't going to bring that up. I was not going to bring that up.
I saw the shirt. I saw it.
However, we are in the playoffs.
And nobody's happier than Ryan Gilbert because
that's right.
he's not just a fan. He put his money where his mouth was, and a lot of it, and his bet to get the Steelers in the playoff paid. So he's a happy boy.
I'm sure he was sweating yesterday.
He was. Let's start here, and we'll get Tim involved in this at some point here. But Glenn, you were at the bowl game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Look, we'll talk about the game in a little bit, but how well run was that bowl?
I said after the game, the marketing team need a raise, like a massive. They got not only K-State fans and NC State fans, but college football fans across America, and probably just from what I saw on social media, it seemed like even some people who didn't care about college football were like, someone told me their grandma was asking about it. She could care less about the game, but she's like, they ate a giant pop. What's going on? And so it was the bowl game. The marketing team was outstanding, and it helped K-State because then a bunch of people, including recruits and fans and whoever else, saw K-State on the national stage and saw them win. So that's a bonus.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. The edible Pop-Tart wasn't anything like what we thought.
Right.
It was better. It was amazing. I was
wondering how they were going to do that because like the guy that was running around the field, very obviously, I could be wrong, but was not edible. And I was like, Caden Gillum might take a bite out of it. So I'm like, they got to figure this out. And so, but yeah, that was genius. They put him in the toaster and spit out the Pop-Tart on the other end. I think it was warm. The player said that it actually wasn't bad. I didn't try it. I was a little busy with the camera, but I heard good things.
It's incredible. Incredible. Strawberry has been toasted and devoured by the K-State football team. We'll back up to get to more of that, but I put that image out there because Strawberry, the Pop-Tart, holding the sign that says dreams do come true, it still makes me laugh.
The mascot was running around the stadium, and at one point walked up to a police officer on the field and had a sign that said Cop Tarts. And at one point found like someone sweeping, like a janitor, like sweeping somewhere and had a sign that said Mop Tarts. So they really went all out for this. It wasn't just the edible mascot. It was like actually, if I can be totally honest, being there, it was a little bit much. At some point I was like, can we chill out a little bit? But I imagine that it was actually the perfect amount. It was just a little overwhelming for me because I'm trying to do my job and I got a Pop-Tart running around.
Yeah, it was really funny. And I saw the Mop-Tart routine where he was trying to mop the end zone and spilled the bucket, which was empty, and just threw the mop and ran off. It was, whoever graduated from mascot school with an A+, let's put it that way.
Definitely.
But for the game, Brien, that was a nice win for Kansas State. They got their work done. They got in there. They protected Avery Johnson quite a bit. It became obvious, and it was just a really nice victory for the Cats.
Yeah, it was. It was a good football game. Good to see a lot of different people play. Avery got out there, like you said, didn't do a lot running the football by design, which I thought was okay. But I think we got accomplished what we wanted to get accomplished. Number one, and I don't think a lot of people talk about this, it was a nationally televised game, the only football game. If you wanted to watch football, you had to watch Kansas State at the time. That's big. It just is. And we got out there, won a football game. That's another thing that's big. So all things considered, it was just a good night for Kansas State football, all things considered.
It was. And the TV ratings at 4.5 million viewers for a odd 4:45 kick. Just a very strange time. It actually beat the Alamo Bowl in ratings between Oklahoma and Arizona. And I think that was just part entertaining game, part great marketing. But I think that says a lot about where this conference is at. I believe last year, Glenn, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you might know this, Kansas had the highest non-New Year's Six bowl rating, and now Kansas State's done it in back-to-back years. And I think that says where this conference is at.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting, and I think the Pop-Tart helped, but people who maybe tuned in for the Pop-Tart ended up seeing some good football and seeing Avery Johnson. It was cool for me. I had people from my hometown in Illinois who, could care less about Kansas State tweeting about Avery Johnson, like, oh my gosh, this quarterback, and like they never heard of the guy until that game. Then they watch it, and now they're almost excited to watch him next year. So getting in front of the national audience, definitely a bonus, and winning in front of the national audience, even better. I think there were just, like you mentioned it, Brian, just some exciting things. Avery's obviously the one that stands out, but even Jace Brown, another freshman, catching the game-winning touchdown pass, and then kind of sending off that O-line with that, whatever it was, 12-play, 70-something, 5-minute drive. It felt fitting. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't flawless, but it felt fitting.
Yeah, it was. It got the job done, and it got the job done in unusual circumstances, which is now pretty much what bowls are all about.
Mm-hmm.
You have to overcome being invited to a bowl nowadays because you got to find the right players, the right mix. You got coaches on the move. You got the transfer portal open. You're trying to sign recruits. And through it all, Connor Riley served as interim OC. He's now been named the OC. We'll get to that later. But, Brian, give me your overall evaluation of how the game was called by Connor Riley.
It was conservative, but I think it was conservative by design. I think there's a lot of different things that we didn't take advantage of, especially in the quarterback run game, but we weren't trying to take advantage of, if that makes sense. It was almost like he had to call a game with one of his arms tied behind his back, going out there to a fight, which, I totally understand, but that's a tough way to audition. I'll be honest. That's a tough way to audition to try to get a job, but he did it. He seemed to make it work. There were times where I thought we could have done some other things, but like I said, under the circumstances, not to mention NC State's a tough team. Even though without their All-American linebacker, they still have some athletes out there that can run around and make some good football plays. So I thought he did fine. There were some things that we could have done better. Some run game things I think we could have done better. But, again, all in all, we got out healthy. We won the game. We were productive on offense. We moved the ball. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, what Brian's hitting at here is that K-State, climbing out of the game, he's like, they didn't have anybody else at quarterback they were comfortable with. So
exactly.
Avery couldn't take off for 22 carries and 118 yards because if he took one hit and landed funny, it was going to be direct snaps to DJ Giddens, which might have worked. But, they had to play it a little bit differently, knowing that it wasn't an option to have him getting hit too hard.
Part of it, we couldn't throw the ball. I mean, without Stinnett, we weren't really utilizing the middle of the field. But that's been a pet peeve of mine with the Kansas State offense for 2 years, that we don't use the middle of the field enough. And not just with the tight end, with running backs in general. We just didn't do that. So I thought maybe there was a chance we were going to sneak something like that in, some seam routes, some dig routes, but we didn't do that. So hopefully that's part of the playbook moving forward because, to have a productive passing game with a guy like Avery, you got to be able to attack all parts of the field.
Well, I just realized my mic's been on the wrong setting the entire time. So, Glenn, it wasn't just you. I think I'm on the right mic. I can't hear my mic, but I think I'm on the right mic. And update from Tim Everson. I don't know why he was on I-70, but he's no longer on I-70. He won't be with us because he's now in a ditch.
He's okay, though.
He's okay. He's okay. He was just out driving in very snowy conditions here. We have a minor, I wouldn't call it a blizzard, but it's coming down pretty good in MHK. Why was he on I-70? Where is he running to? Was he trying to get away from us? And
I don't know. I didn't invite him to Topeka for the show, so if he's coming here, I don't know why.
All right, he tells me he's out putting out a newspaper doing his job, and he's on I-70 the whole time. I'm suspicious that he's up to something. But Tim will join us next week. We'll go with three men this week and continue to talk about the Pop-Tarts Bowl. We'll get to K-State basketball here in a little bit. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. Please help us out. The show is free. Subscription helps us expand our algorithm quite a bit. Leave comments. With three of us, we're going to have some time to get to the comments and hit the thumbs up, of course, because we need affirmation that we are loved. We just tell us you love us. Also, a big announcement coming a little bit later in the show about some programming at GoPowercat. I think you and many around the conference will enjoy. But let's continue our talk about the Pop-Tarts Bowl. You know what, though? Big B, they didn't miss a beat in terms of changing a quarterback. It just didn't feel like the offense was out of sync one bit. I think they were very conservative. I think they told Avery, don't put the ball in peril, just throw it away. Let's just be really careful here and run and protect yourself as much as possible. If you can run, you have to run. Just don't take that hit, which he was careful with. But overall, Brien, I thought the offense functioned fairly normally and almost with fewer glitches with Avery at quarterback, if that's a proper way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, it looked the same. That's the thing that a lot of people came and were talking to me about, sent me messages. I even had a friend from my high school hometown who went to the game because they were in Orlando. It cost me a K-State shirt, but that's all good. But yeah, he said the same thing. He was like, man, he goes, the offense looks the exact same without Will Howard there. And I'm like, yeah, I figured it would. And I go, a lot of people thought that it was going to look the same. So that didn't surprise me, Fitz, that Avery came in and the offense would offer out a glitch. The one thing that does help with all of that, and it kind of goes unnoticed, if you're not changing offensive linemen, when your offensive line is there, a lot of things can stay the same. Look, I know I'm an old offensive lineman. I get it. But if the offensive line is all there and you're not changing that, what you want to do on offense, if you've got competent quarterback play, you're still going to be able to do it. And that's where the difference was.
You're right on both points. You are a former offensive lineman and you're old. Both points are true. But no, he's exactly right. Glenn, that line came back. The line came back to play one more season together. And in this world of people sitting out the bowl game, those old dogs said, nope, we got one more to play with each other. I think that's what's made this such a special group along the line.
Yeah, and a huge part of why they did it, I'm not saying they wouldn't have it in other circumstances, but for the bowl game specifically, is they knew this was an audition for their guy, Connor Riley. They love that guy. He's part of the reason they came back for another season, and he's a huge part of the reason. They told me that on the field after the game for why they played in this bowl game. They wanted to make sure that Connor Riley looked good in this bowl game because they wanted him to get this job. They thought he deserved it. They care about him a ton, and so they played with a little extra motivation in this game. I think it was hey, do your job or else our guy isn't going to look good if we don't take care of business. So that's really cool, the relationships that he's built with those guys. And that O-line was good. Cooper Beebe ended his career with another pancake block and then a Pop-Tart afterwards. I think they tried to tear the packaging off the Pop-Tart trophy and ended up like smashing the physical Pop-Tarts into the trophy. And then they had to like flip it upside down and shake it to get the pop. It was a mess, but it was a beautiful mess. It was perfectly fitting for that group. But yeah, cool to see that they played in this one, especially a guy like Cooper Beebe, who's obviously going to be a first or second round draft pick, I would say. And that he still wanted to take the field.
Brien, they played well.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, one thing that I thought was cool with the whole thing is, with everybody coming back, I just think it helps them as well. That's a one thing that kind of gets lost. I know we want to help the team, and that is by far, to me, is the most important thing. But look, if you have any aspirations of going to the next level, put some more, game tape on film. Put something else on film for people to see. That goes, missing. Everybody talks about the injury aspect or the possibility of getting hurt and losing money. Well, what about the possibility of gaining money? That's all the way that I always look at that type of stuff. Glass half empty, glass half full. Which one do you want? Okay, so the guys going out there and putting more tape on film if you want to play more, or just, you know what? I don't want to go out my last football game ever losing. Yeah. I just don't want to do that. That has to mean something too to somebody. Trust me, as somebody who did go out with their last football game losing to Purdue, it's a different conversation for a different day. It sticks with you. So good for those guys, man. Good for those guys.
Let's not discuss that season. Let's not do that right now.
And the Steelers won. Let's focus on that.
Yeah,
there we go.
Defensively, also, guys, they stood up. They played a pretty good game. Brendan Armstrong, their quarterback, ran around quite a bit, had some, nice plays with his legs. That wasn't unexpected, but they didn't want him damaging anyone in terms of being able to throw the ball. They really bottled up the, typical running game. I thought defensively they were sound, particularly with some of the guys they had pressed into duty. Just, hadn't played enough to be really frontline guys.
Yeah, it felt like on the defensive line, you lost Nate Matlack and Uso Samala was out. So you're without you're playing three front, you're without two of your three defensive linemen. And they were still, they weren't racking up sacks, but they were still competitive on the defensive line. And then I think the secondary probably got better throughout the game. It felt fitting to me that I think Jacob Parrish was the one that got the pick, because I think they tried to pick on him a little bit earlier in the game and it didn't work. They thought they were, okay, let's go after this guy. And they kept trying apparently late. And he was like, well, that was a mistake. But I think the group, looking ahead to 2024, the group that I'm most excited about is that linebacker core. You're talking about Desmond Purnell coming back. He's a stud. Austin Moore comes back for a 6th year. And then we saw these flashes before Jake Clifton got hurt. He was really fun to watch. We saw Austin Romaine really good as a freshman. So you're talking about a group of 4 linebackers. I know there's more, but that kind of gets you excited to watch them fly around the field next year.
Yeah. Asa Newsome played a little bit before he got hurt. What's interesting about Asa is we always kind of monitor our player interviews to see who gets the most views in a week and, how those are playing. And it's always a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. It's always, whether it's Will or Avery. Well, it's just Avery. No matter who else is in the room, it's Avery. Yeah. But Will or Avery. But the 1 week he came to media, it was Asa Newsome. And we're like, what? So apparently people like Asa because he's a great young man. You're right. Those linebackers are going to be really good. Big B, thoughts on the defense, particularly maybe the back end where all the safeties were kind of filling in and plugged into different spots.
Well, that's what I thought was really good, Fitz, is because guys were filling in, they're mismatched in some spots out there, and guys playing well. A lot of the quarterback runs that we saw Armstrong get was because of coverage downfield. He was able to get away sometimes because guys were covered up downfield. Linebacker, obviously, to me, is going to be the strength. As far as the defense next year, I wouldn't even be surprised if we may see a guy maybe switch positions if they're able to do that. Maybe go to a defensive lineman if they have to do that. I don't necessarily think they will, but there could be a need where they say, hey, you know what? You're 2A, 2B here. But if you move down and you move to defensive end, maybe get you out there, Now, the difference is it looks like we might be going to at least one of those defensive end spots, guys being a little bit bigger to cover up against the run, which if you're going to run a 3-3-5, you need some big guys up front. So, but I like the back end. I definitely like the back end. I like what I saw. And it's only going to get better. That's the key. A lot of young guys out there, but getting experience has to help. We saw that throughout the season too, especially at that Oklahoma State game where it looked like guys were scared to death just to be out on the field to the end of the season. Guys are out there making plays. That's the kind of growth that you want to see. I thought K-State got that. I'm excited about that back end.
Yeah, I don't think the secondary was perfect this year, but I think they have a lot of guys that can be good and I think will be better next year. I think Marquise Siegel came about as far as anybody from
correct.
I look at like the non-conference schedule to where he was in the bowl game or even late in the regular season. He came so far. I think VJ Payne came a long way, Jacob Parrish. So that's, if you're looking at a group, that might be your most improved group on the team is that secondary group. And then the defensive line is interesting because, you mentioned maybe they pull a linebacker down, but then they also, I think they've shown they have 3 defensive tackles who can make plays. Damian Alalio got more playing time than we've seen. He's a Manhattan High kid, and he played a lot in the bowl game, and he did well. And then they have Javon Banks and Damian Alalio. So those are 3 big guys. Plus, they bring in the defensive tackle from JUCO. So they're going to have 4 large defensive tackles, and maybe one of those guys ends up playing on the outside, or maybe they line them both up. But that's also a spot that intrigues me.
I think we will see Jonathan Banks out on the edge. They will move him out with Uso coming back for his bonus season. So that's good news. Let's get to the biggest news of the week in the world of football for Kansas State. Connor Riley was the interim at the bowl game. We can agree that He did a very good job calling a conservative game, but I'm sure that was what he was ordered to do. And there was some question, including for me, whether or not he wanted to be in the press box moving forward and not down on the field with his guys. Well, we have now found out that they have indeed hired Matt Wells to fill the quarterback position. Matt Wells now has 17 titles at Kansas State University. He's a quarterback's coach. He's the co-offensive coordinator because Connor Riley is the offensive coordinator. And also he is associate head coach, not to be confused with Van Malone's title of assistant head coach. And he's also, of course, assistant to the assistant general manager. I hope Matt Wells is getting paid by title. Like every title comes with a different check because he might be like a professor in the ag department also. We're not sure.
Yeah, I'd like to expand my title, not just to sports director at 27 News, but also maybe sports executive producer.
Right.
And I don't know if that would actually even be me, though. Landon produces our Sunday show. But I'd like to add a few more to my name. I'll think of them and get back to you guys. Sports reporter, sports anchor, sports director.
Just go for Grand Poobah. That's one that time has not held up. Grand Poobah seems like a good title for you at 27. So Connor Riley will be calling plays. He will be in the press box next season. I am surprised by it, and I have confirmed that. But Brien, give me your thoughts on what this does for the offense. Good, bad, whatever.
I think it's good to have some cohesiveness, within the rooms. To have a guy that that even if you're not comfortable with, at least you're familiar with him. I think that always helps. But also bringing in, someone with some outside eyes to bring in some outside, ideas to make the offense a little bit different, not so predictable. You need some of that. You can't always just run the same plays over and over and over again. Coaches don't necessarily go to other colleges anymore like they used to go and go for a day clinic and find plays. They don't do that as much anymore like they did 15, 20 years ago. So that's why there's always turnover and bringing new guys in. So I think that's going to be good for K-State. I know people are worried about how the offense is going to run and what's it going to look like. Is Avery going to be happy? I think bringing in fresh eyes to do that and bringing in some fresh ideas, more importantly, is going to be key to K-State and doing some things that they haven't done before that maybe they've seen before somewhere else, but not at K-State. Yep. And implementing that into what we do, I think is going to be a big deal. Just a great idea. I think it's a good hire.
Glenn, I like this hire. I mean, Matt Wells is an experienced coach. He had a lot of success at Utah State, and recruited and coached Jordan Love out there, who seems to be working out okay for the Packers right now.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah, he's kind of lighting it up. But there's some experience there. He's a very creative coach. He's run a variety of offenses from the air raid to other things. Having him in the room, helping form game plans, helping design plays could be huge for Connor Riley.
Yeah, I think so. I think that first and foremost, I think we know Connor Riley well enough to know that he cares about his guys and he wants to win. Right. Those are two things that we know about Connor Riley. And so I don't think by any means he has an issue with a co-offensive coordinator. I think he's probably fired up to learn from him and grow and kind of learn himself, but also just help the overall offense and help Avery Johnson be successful. But I think it is helpful to have a different mind. This wouldn't have happened. I know that, but my thought process is that Connor Riley, 3rd and 2, he's like, we'll run it. Tell Hadley Panzer to get him out of the way, and then we're going to run it behind him, and we're going to get the first down. That's what we're going to do on 3rd and 2. And so maybe a different offensive mind to see things differently. I know that Connor will still trust his O-line, and we'll still have those guys ready. And probably a lot of times we'll call on those guys, which I don't think is there's no issue with that at all. But having just a different style, it could be a nice dynamic duo, which I know is the cliche, but I actually mean that for what it is, a dynamic duo.
Really? Like superheroes?
Yeah.
That's awesome, huh?
That's what people call me and Big B, the dynamic duo.
That's right.
Next week, they will be in tights with capes. Brien, he brings up a point, though. You offensive linemen think offensive linemen solve the world, and I kind of agree with that. But does this kind of indicate a tendency on third and short? Let's hammer it straight ahead. My boys will take care of it.
I mean, it can, but look, I mean, this is new age football. This is different type of football that we're playing now. 3rd and 2, 15 years ago was always, we're running it. I don't care what happens. We are running this football. Things are a little different now. Mm-hmm. I'm still under the impression that you can spread teams out and still run the football. You don't, and trick people. It's okay to trick people, and a lot of times people, they don't want to do that. We want to bring in 3 tight ends and we want to just run it down their throat and show our hand. I'm just not for that. So I think having Wells there may be part of the, okay, well, you know what? Yeah, we can line up in this. We'll still run the ball like we may want to run the ball, but let's run them in this formation. Let's come out and, a 23 or 21 personnel or something like that. Let's do some different things, even though we're still trying to accomplish the same thing the same way. Let's just make it look different. And I think that is the key because, you got to have fresh minds. You got to be innovative. And I know that's what K-State fans for so long got so frustrated because offense wasn't innovative enough. Well, here's our opportunity.
This is the Insiders, the K-State edition of the Insiders. We hope you're enjoying the show. We do this every week. We're now at 1 p.m. I think we fooled some people with our little switch there. We fooled Tim Everson, who was on his way to the show, I think, but ended up in a ditch on I-70. It does sound like Tim Everson was running from the law. He did slide off the road in snowy conditions. I'm sure he is now in the custody of whomever he was fleeing. And after this break on the Insiders, and the drill,
bail him out.
We're not going to bail him out. That man's got to suffer his consequences. He's got to learn a lesson. If he's going to do the stuff he's been doing, he's got to learn from that. After the break, we've got a huge announcement about something new coming from GoPowercat.com and this channel here on YouTube. And if you've been watching the Insiders in the past, this break is 6 seconds long if you're watching live.
GoPowercat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify is here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast.
Welcome back to the Insiders. Tim Fitzgerald, Brien Hanley, Glenn Kinley. 3/4 of the usual grouping. Tim Everson is running from the law. We're just going to say that now every time he's not on the show. He's late because of deadline. He's fleeing from the law. So that'll just be our code. Well, we've been really impressed with the success of the Insiders and how popular it's become among K-State people. And I've always wanted to do something a little bit bigger, a little bit something beyond the boundaries. And I don't mean that in a negative way of Kansas State athletics, but if you've been following my daily deliveries, I'm a huge fan of the new 12, the 16 team alliance that will be the Big 12 conference going forward, I think is a great cultural fit for everyone involved. And because of that, and a great sponsor, Synergy Financial Services, starting next week, following our Monday show, every Tuesday through Friday, 4 days a week, my man Big B will be hosting the Big Insiders, as in the Big 12 Insiders, where he'll be talking Big 12 sports with some familiar faces and our publishers and writers from around the 24/7 Sports Network, and also, of course, former players, media people, anyone we can rope into being on the panel from day to day. That'll be 4 days a week. Brian, you got a lot of work ahead. You gotta stretch out, gotta limber up that knee. 4 days a week, roughly, 40 minutes to an hour, just like this show, whatever the day wants. But the Insiders will be 5 days a week, and 4 of them will be this right here. There it is. The Big B takes on the Big 12.
I love it.
And the colors of the Insiders logo, just by chance, are black and gold.
Look at that.
I don't know what happened there.
Coincidence.
Yeah, I just figured I was going to match his clothing if I did that. Plus, I dig black. That's kind of the Big 12 color. But we appreciate everyone from Synergy. We'll give you a lot more information on Synergy here in the future when they start their advertising next week with us. But it's a great business out of Georgia that has some roots in Kansas, and we are glad to have them on. And we'll teach you more about them and the cool stuff they do. Boys, on to basketball. I was just beginning to really worry about Kansas State.
Real quick, Fitz. We got a paid question in the chat. I want to make sure we get to on football and then we'll go basketball.
Okay, thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
Where I'm gonna try to find the chats here. Who's kicking out the Cornelio? Cornelio, you just pay me money to talk about stuff. Good morning, fellas. Great show. Question: is the staff good with going with an all freshman sophomore at tight end? Maybe add one. No, I think they're. My thought in talking to coaches, they love their tight ends.
Absolutely.
They love their tight ends. And keep this in mind, next year's recruiting class, the 25 class, there are 2 tight ends in the state of Kansas that are among the nation's best tight ends.
Yep.
And that's going to be a huge focus. And I think they're just they're pointing to the future with the guys they have. They feel like Oakley in particular can really step up and be the Ben Sennett, but they've got a good mix there, and they bring in some young guys. So I think that's important. Guys, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think they like Garrett Oakley a lot, and I think we would have seen more Garrett Oakley this year. I think Garrett Oakley was ready to make plays this year, but they had a guy who was going to get drafted and Ben Sennett in front of him, and so it was an unusual situation where Oakley wasn't on the field much, not because he – normally I think Oakley could have had, 40 yards and 5 catches a game this season, and then next year there'd be no question about him moving forward. But since he was on the field, it looks a little different. Hey, what are we getting this guy? I think he's probably the guy going forward, unless they decide to pick up the Linden, Kansas native who's in the transfer portal from Alabama.
Yeah, I think that, I would have liked to see him. Maybe this is where Wells comes in and helps a lot of 2 tight end sets, a lot more 2 tight end sets this season. It gets tricky when you're running the ball a lot, with the lead blocker, but Sennett could do that. So I think that's something that's going to help us in the future, especially with how we have in the past struggled a little bit with wide receivers and not getting the ball down the middle of the field. So I think that's something that's going to help us getting 2 tight ends on the field to attack seams, but also block at the point of attack. I think that would help a lot in the running game, just doing some different stuff and making it look different and being different. I mean, there's a lot you can do with 2 tight ends. That's why the NFL went to it, about 7-8 years ago. You can do a lot, especially when you get those athletic tight ends out there. They just create mismatches that you just can't get on a football field from an offensive side. So the more we can take advantage of it, and I think we will, the better this offense is going to be.
Thanks to Cornelio for the question. You can find the super chat down there somewhere in the corner and click that. If you want to pay us to talk like monkeys, we'll do it. We'll do anything for $1.
We're puppets.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
All right, now we talk basketball.
Basketball. I was very encouraged by Saturday's performance against UCF, because coming out of that Chicago State game, that was not a good team, and they didn't play well. They played well enough to win by single digits. But, Brien, they came out against UCF and put the hammer down from the very start, something we haven't seen this team do. They have not been fast starters. They were on Saturday, and they built a 12-0 lead, and they just never looked back. I don't think UCF ever got it to single digits once they, spread it out after, I think it was 12 something.
And they led by double digits for 36 minutes.
Yeah, there we go. See, that's why we have Glenn on. If it's just me, these facts aren't happening.
I stole that one from our sports reporter, Landon Reinhardt. So
okay, God, just give him all the credit. Maybe we should just have him on.
I came up with it. Landon he doesn't know anything.
Okay,
there you go, Glenn.
I don't know what I was thinking there.
What were your thoughts on the game, Big B?
It's an old adage that everybody always says: when you make shots, your team looks better. Yeah. K-State made shots against Chicago State. They didn't, and that was that's a big difference. They made some shots. Now, they created a lot of open shots that they made, which also helps. I just think K-State is better when they're getting up and down. When they are going up and down the court, playing really, really fast, I think that's when they are at their best. Now, is that going to create some turnovers? Yes. Is it going to create some open shots for other teams on the other side and layups? Yes. But if the object is to get your team to play the best that they can possibly play, I think it's better when the guys are getting up and down the court. They got up and down the court against UCF, and again, they made shots. Because, again, you can get up and down the court. If you're not making any shots, then that's usually a bad thing, because the other team's probably getting layups, and it's a problem. But guys made shots. They played well. It was good to see. I'm looking forward to West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's interesting is it felt like early in the game they were just lighting it up. They shot 42% from the field for the game. So they still can shoot it better, but I felt like they shot in better rhythm. And Glenn, maybe that's just because Tyler Perry shook off his funk and finally started hitting shots. We know this guy can shoot. He's got 3 years of college basketball history that tell us he's a great shooter. And he kind of broke free in this game. Hopefully that's now the Tyler Perry we'll see.
Yeah, it could have been a confidence thing. You hit one or two and then you feel yourself, and then the next few you believe they're going in when you shoot them. So I think that was huge, and probably just getting off to a hot start, and K-State feels like they own the place. I'm sure, get the crowd into it early and stuff like that. So I think they needed a game like this. They needed to go out and just beat somebody badly and beat. I know UCF's not going to win the league, maybe, but beat a competent team badly. I think they beat, I don't know who it was, Central Arkansas maybe early in the year. That was like one of their only blowout wins. But to beat a legitimate team, maybe not a great team, but a legitimate team really badly, I think is good for the confidence of this group. I think the Big 12, and I know you'll get into it way more on your show, Big B, but I think the Big 12 is a gauntlet. There might be a few teams here and there that aren't too strong, but the Big 12 has to have 8 teams that are really good, really, really good.
No, it's the best conference in basketball without question. And anybody that says that it's not, I don't even know if you should consider talking basketball with them anymore. just walk away from the conversation, because it is the best basketball conference in the country. It's just going to be a brutal stretch for somebody to get through. I don't care who you are, Houston, Kansas, whoever it is. It's going to be brutal for you to get through this.
The slate is so tough. Texas is good, and but then Texas Tech just beat them in Austin this past weekend. Did. So Tech is good with Grant McCasland. Baylor's always good. I mean, my God,
brutal. It's brutal.
I think it could be a really good team and finish below 500 in the Big 12.
Correct. And K-State's in that mix.
Yeah.
K-State is in that mix of being a good team. So you just look at it and just over and over and over. It's like, where is the easy game? Where can I get K-State may have just had it.
Yeah.
And that might be it for the rest of the year. They had their easy game, and now we're going 2 months without one. And that's, but I'd rather it be that way, to be honest with you guys. I'd rather it be that way. Number one, we get really good basketball. That's number one. But we get into this tournament. If K-State can find their way, win enough games to get in this tournament, you are going to be battle tested. There is no doubt about that. You are going to be ready for the NCAA tournament if you can make it through this slate, man.
Guys, I'm looking at it now. How about this for a welcome to the Big 12 for UCF? They lose by 25 at Kansas State. Then they bring in Kansas this Wednesday, number 3 in the country. Then they play 18th ranked BYU. Then they go to Texas to play nationally ranked Longhorns. And then they go to Houston to play number 2 in the country, Houston. And then they got West Virginia.
It's unbelievable. It's
brutal.
After the game, I spoke with some of the traveling party from UCF. I think it was the play-by-play guy and someone else, maybe the color guy. I don't know, but they were already beleaguered. They were already like, "Oh crap, what are we into here?" And well, to start with, UCF is still they haven't got their Big 12 money yet. They're still on their American money. This is their first year in the Big 12. They'll get that money later, but they flew a turboprop into Manhattan from Orlando. And I asked if they would take me back because it was cold outside to Orlando. And they said, we have used every seat possible. If you'd like to fly on the wing, we might be able to do it. And I'm like, I don't want to fly on a turboprop.
On that.
I don't want to fly on a turboprop that distance inside the plane, let alone outside. But I think they felt like, oh boy, we just got beat by an unranked team by 25 points, and now we got 4 straight ranked teams.
They lost by 25 and said, surely that wasn't the easiest game of our next 3 weeks. Oh yeah, it was.
Might have been. But it also, we talk about Houston as a newcomer adding a lot to this conference, but K-State has a home and away with the BYU team that's been pretty good. They did lose on Saturday night. I'd like to apologize to everyone. I missed my first opportunity for Big 12 basketball after dark, and I went to bed early.
Dang.
Sometimes elderly sneaks up on me and says, "Hey, it's 9:30. We should go to bed."
You're not the only one, Fitz. I tried, and halftime hit, and I was like, "Okay, I'm out. I'm out."
Well, it ended up Cincinnati won at BYU, so Cincinnati might be pretty good too. This conference is going to be an absolute blast. But if the Big 12 hated UCF, for once, Big 12 scheduling did K-State a favor. They get UCF, and Tuesday night, West Virginia is on slate in Morgantown. Our Zach Carlson and Ryan Gilbert are on their way there, I hope. They got out of Kansas City as planned, and they will be there covering the game for GoPowercat. As an interesting little side note for this game, West Virginia interim coach Josh Eilert's not just a Kansas State product, a former player and a former staff member. He is also Zach Carlson's cousin.
Oh, no kidding.
Cousin. Yes. Okay. So that there's some deep ties. They're not deep at all. Anyhow, I'm sure they'll catch up a little bit, but he's from one of those families with a lot of cousins. I have 2. So, it's different. But guys, I was encouraged by Tyler Perry. If Tyler Perry plays anywhere close to that, can consistently hit that 3-pointer, and he hit 6 of 11. 2 of them were kind of panicked shot clock variety. So let's say 6 of 9. But I'm telling you what, if he can get around 40% 3-point shooting on a consistent basis, which he's done in the past, that'll just change the context of everything for K-State. Just how many times this year did it feel like they were getting ready to go on a run? Tyler gets an open 3 and misses it, or Cam Carter gets an open 3 and misses it. They hit those on Saturday, and it just really changed the entire complexion of the game. Like you started with, Brian, coaches look a lot smarter when you make the shots. Even the same shots. You can do everything the same way in a game. Defend the same level, run the offense the same level. If you make the shots, it's just brilliant. It's good coaching.
Well, we're going to find out, too, when we get into Big 12 play, is can K-State beat good teams when the shots aren't always falling? That's what the best teams win when they play poorly, or even when they play okay, or the shots aren't falling. And so does K-State have that buffer room? They've won when they've shot the ball poorly so far this year most of the time, but it's been against teams that are not up to the level of the Big 12 that we were just discussing. So can they beat a good team if the shots aren't falling? And hopefully the shots aren't falling. I mean, that's best case scenario, but you're going to have off nights, and you got to find a way to win a few, because if you lose every time you have an off night, that's not going to be enough.
Well, and you're 100% right, Glenn, because the difference is if they play bad, they're not winning. But you can shoot bad and still not play bad. And there's a huge difference. If they shoot bad and they can still win the game, that's great.
Right.
Now, if they play bad, I mean, they're not going to beat anybody in this league. And nobody is. Shooting bad, though, that's the mark of a good team. You hit it right on the head. If they shoot bad, but you can still find a way to win, especially on the road.
Right.
Because that's where a lot of teams shoot bad, is they go on the road, unfamiliar surroundings, the shot eyesight or the line of sight with the shot or with the rim is off. They're not used to it, things of that nature. But when you can find a way to win on the road, when you shoot bad, but then you can lock some people up, that's where the difference is. And I think that's the one thing that I think K-State's got to get better at is guarding. The other night they played well, and I'm not saying they've guarded horrible all season. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's somewhere where they can tighten up a little bit because, again, you're going to have off shooting nights. You're going to have several of them. It's just the way that basketball works and percentages work. So when you can lock some people up, though, and keep a game in the low 60s when you shoot bad, then you can find a way to win at the end. Because I'll be quite honest, I think our coach is better than everybody else's. And when you get into games like that, it's okay, one possession. I think our coach can draw up a play better than theirs. That's just the way I feel about it. So I think we have that advantage. So if the guys can do that, keep level-headed, mentally tough during those tough games where shots are just not falling, do everything else right, and I think we'll be okay because we got a coach on our side.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about a group. I think you're talking about a group here too that has a they're without two of their best players, and so we don't know for sure on Quez Glover where his status is, but in a way, you mentioned it, Fitz, when you finally got an answer on the Naquan Tomlin situation, even though it wasn't the answer they wanted, but it was a closure in a way. I don't know if that's the right word, but okay, I think the way you put it is like they know that he's not coming to bail them out. It's not like let's get by until Naquan comes back. And now it sounds like it's not let's get by until Quez Glover comes back because it's going to be way too late, if at all. Correct. And so they're in a situation where the guys we have are the guys we have, and either go get it done or this thing's going to be ugly. And Saturday they went and got it done. Yeah,
Quez Glover is lost for the season 2 days before finally getting back on the court for K-State. He only played part of the exhibition game before injuring a knee. He re-aggravated that injury, requiring another scope. So he's out for the season. His future is unknown. He would be eligible for medical hardship if he wanted to stick around. But as Coach Tang said, this is about his fourth knee injury, the same knee. So maybe basketball just isn't in his future. We'll find out what Quez wants to do. They were excited to get him back. He kind of addressed what you mentioned, Brian. They felt like he was a fast guard that could push the ball up court, get them into more open court situations. And again, this is a part of the transition of Tyler Perry to a point guard. It seemed to have distracted him from shooting the ball, and he's almost tried too hard to create in the half court at times instead of just letting some guys go take care of it. But he still doesn't remain 100% comfortable in the open court as the point guard, trying to break down. Marquise Noel was just a natural. I mean, he'd done it his whole life, figuring out where to put the ball to help his guys make great plays or him make a great play himself. So that's something K-State's going to have to fight through. But I'm encouraged by what I saw, and I think they have an opportunity to be a competitor in a really good conference, a tremendous conference, a freakish conference. And as Coach Tang said, 9-9, it gives them 19 wins going into the Big 12 tournament. That gets them in the tournament, and I would agree.
Absolutely.
But Big B, 9-9 in the Big 12 is putting on your big boy pants. That's going to get you in the upper half.
Absolutely, yeah. K-State goes 9-9 in the Big 12. They've done some work. They have done some work because, like we mentioned, the conference is just so tough. And you're going to have beaten some really good basketball teams. So to get there, like I said, I think they're going to have to – I know we keep talking about it, but unfortunately, it's just the truth. You got to get tougher up front. The guys up front, we got to be able to try to get some inside scoring. You can't just rely – I mean, Glenn, we talked about it. You can't just rely on jump shots because there's going to be days where you're just not making them. Well, at some point, you just got to say, you know what? And it doesn't have to be a center by trade. it can be anybody, maybe a small forward, maybe you take advantage of a mismatch, but every now and then you just got to throw the ball into somebody and say, go get us a basket when we need it, and K-State, I think, is still figuring that out. I think they have it figured out a little bit, but time will tell. And to be quite honest with you, the Big 12 is unforgiving. So they're going to have to get that figured out, because if they don't, it'll be a problem. I just, like I mentioned before, I think we got the coach that's going to get it figured out for us.
Here's another question from the chat here. Matt, I think that's our friend Matt. They have the potential to go 9-9. Deng, TCU, and Houston are just on another level. Houston was really good the other night. TCU was really good the other night at Kansas.
Come on. That was horrible. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Fitz, but that was just I know we've dealt with it for years. That was horrible. Just horrible.
Well, the good news is Hunter Dickinson survived. He's going to be okay. He vicious karate chop that almost decapitated him. I watched it over and over, and I'd like to congratulate him on selling that. Absolutely selling. I mean, that's part of the game. And Big 12 officials, you can argue whether it was a flagrant or not, but he made sure it got called. Because it was going to be hard to ignore that. So, but yeah, that's life. You go into the Allen Fieldhouse, the crowd is intimidating for officials. There's no doubt about it. I think Bramlage Coliseum can become the same at some point again, because it used to be. But boy, Allen Fieldhouse is something else. And but this conference, look, Houston and Kansas are two of the top teams in the country. I mean, they could play for the national championship, and nobody'd think anything twice about it. They're that level. They're both going to lose at home this year. They're in the conference, and it could be to anyone. I mean, it could be one of those nights when, all of a sudden Oklahoma State rises up and gets one of them. You don't know what it's going to be. I'm going to say this: it won't be UCF or West Virginia. So let me retract the anyone part of that statement. But it's going to be brutal in this conference. But it's fun. K-State, West Virginia, Big B. Do the Cats get it done in Morgantown?
Yeah, I think they do. I think it'll be a game. I think it'll be challenging because, look, West Virginia's got a guy that came in. I cannot remember his name, so I apologize. He's averaging he's averaging like 27 points a game in the games that he's played. So again, but they don't have much else, and that's where the difference is. I mean, he came in and literally took over the team. But if K-State plays their game, if they guard and rebound, which they've done a decent job of doing that, but they go rebound on the road, that's how you win. Go defend and go rebound on the road. They go do that, K-State will be fine. Whether they're making their shots or not, they're going to be fine.
I feel like Glenn, they're going to be stoked for Coach Eilert's alma mater. I got a feeling they're going to come out with a lot of fire.
Yeah, and I think that K-State probably has even more to prove in this one, right? Like start conference play, I think a lot of people have kind of already written them off, and then they win their conference opener. A lot of people are still saying, well, UCF stinks. It don't matter. Everybody's going to beat them by 25. And so I think not just the West Virginia game, I think each game they play, they're going to kind of have a decision to make on what message do you want to send. And if they can pick up, it doesn't have to be every game, but if they can pick up wins here and there in a really tough league, I think they're going to kind of prove people wrong. I think that's motivating for them. It is always funny, and this isn't K-State. This isn't every team does this. The Chiefs do this. They talk about how much they're ignoring the outside noise and they don't care. But then it's like a long rant about like a long rant about like what the outside noise is. And I was like, it sounds like you're hearing it a little bit.
They're all listening.
But that's okay, though. I think in a way it can be motivating. I mean, Tank talked about Tyler Perry being motivated by a tweet of somebody saying that I think somebody said if Tyler Perry is the best shooter in America, then America needs to figure out how to shoot a basketball or something. Like if it's motivating, great. If you read into it too much and if it's affecting your focus or your preparation, that's maybe an issue. But if it's just fueling you and you're saying, I'm gonna look at some of this stuff, and I'm going to go out and prove them wrong, then good for you.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should start a podcast called The Outside Noise. Let's talk trash. Talk trash on people.
I had some on Saturday. I was called a Jayhawk fanboy on Twitter for tweeting the final score from Allen Fieldhouse. And then in the same day, I was called Mr. K-State. Someone said that I was cherry picking quotes. And so I'm biased to both sides is what it is. It's yeah.
You're biased to both sides.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make you not biased?
No.
You would think. I mean, that's the true definition of that. But who knows, Fitz? Who knows?
We know this. Big B will be starting a new show a week from tomorrow. If you missed the announcement, he is biased towards the Steelers, as you can tell. But don't miss it. Big B takes on the Big 12 as the Big Insiders runs Tuesday through Friday in this 1 p.m. time slot. Whoops, I lost our thing. And in this 1 p.m. time slot every week. That's why we switched to 1. It looks like once we got to 1:30, we picked up viewers. Fooled ya. Well, we switched. But we appreciate everyone watching the Insiders. Now you know why. If you look real closely at the brand at the bottom, it says the K-State Insiders. While we don't want to actually use the name in the title, the Big Insiders has a 12 in parentheses too.
And hey, if you missed it live or you tuned in here at 1:30, correct me if I'm wrong, Fitz, but it should be available for playback on YouTube or podcast elsewhere, so you can catch the first 30 minutes if you missed it.
Absolutely.
It is available on our YouTube channel once I do the production of it, on our podcast channels once I do the production of it. And as soon as this is over, it is available on replay. That's why we put the fun little ad in there. But that's it for this week's edition of the Insiders. We hope Team Everson's okay. As someone that's run from the law many times, it gets a little bit dangerous. And doing so in a blizzard and ending up in the ditch is a shame. But he's on the run, and we hope to have him back next week from somewhere. That's it for this edition of the Insiders. We appreciate it very much. And here we go with the big fancy close.
Thank you for listening to the PowerCat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
Rise and shine, football fans. This is Susanna Fuller from Morning Footy, a podcast part of the CBS Sports Galazzo Network covering the breadth of the global game. Join me, Nico Cantor, Charlie Davies, Alexis Guerreros, and guests every morning for the perfect blend of news, analysis, conversation, and exclusive interviews. If you love soccer, then look no further. We've got you covered for Europe's top 5 leagues, the W Gold Cup, the Champions League knockout stage, CONCACAF Nations League, NWSL, MLS, transfer news, and much more. Download and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere podcasts are found. Subscribe to Morning Footy.